Important live for still those who just don't get it. They just don't get it. Forced vaccinations are in Canada. You can call it other terms, other definitions, anything you want to call it. But for a vast amount of the population of tax-paying citizens, meaning those who pay into the system the most revenue generated by government, you, which is me, the third class, working full-time, paying their bills, forced vaccines are a reality. The due dates to be double vaccinated, to be allowed to work in Canada for a vast amount of the working population is coming. It's coming for some of us here at the end of the month, next month, but that is the power of your provincial governments, the reality of your civil rights here in Canada, because you have none. The government gives them to the employers, the large corporations, businesses, and people still crying in their soup like there's anything we can do about it. I've told everybody for years, where you find your civil rights, and that, which overlaps human rights, which we're going to get into next, for all those who just can't fathom reality check, and you're having problems in these groups saying, oh no, it's not like, you gotta fight, people need to pay their bills or you are out of a job and they will replace you. Look at immigration. They're already doing it. How do you think they keep reducing your civil rights and overlapping human rights? Your standard of living. Forced vaccines are a reality in this country. Today has been in the works for months, and people still, oh no, I'll resist. Tell that to those who are paying for your system, like myself, positive contributors, the vast amount of the working third-class citizens of this country we call Canada, right across all the provinces, right across, including Alberta. Jason Kenney has made that clear. He can talk circles around it, call it a card, call it this, call it that. But they gave the power, which has always been the power, in the employer's hands because the government does not give you any civil rights whatsoever. Jason Kenney, the Premier of Alberta, has all your civil rights, as does Doug Ford in the province of Ontario. He utilizes that through his ministry, labor, health. It goes on and on and on. All provinces have it. It's always been this way. Now, there's overlaps, which is now part 2 of human rights, world-binding laws, and where Jason Kenney finds himself this week, post July 1st of this year, 2021, where Jason Kenney now this week finds himself, if children die for anti-vaxxers, if Jason Kenney makes the choice to give a child's place in ICU to an unvaccinated adult, and a child dies, that is genocide. You can even overlap women in this. Like, did you allow a man to have a right to that bill? This is where the health services is talking about making choices. This is why Jason Kenney is flying COVID patients, adult males, out of province to Ontario, and Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau have to respond and have to do this. Have to. Because world-binding laws don't give you the right to get rid of a child on this earth over a male. That is human rights law binding. Binding. People, I'm sorry that you're in a country that keeps all this from you. I've spent years touring the world to get to this place. And nobody else is doing the work. Nobody else realizes your first-class politicians can fail you, screw up, do all kinds of dirty, nasty, and they get away with it. It's you who loses your rights. It's you who could lose children if they make gross mistakes. We're going to find out if Jason Kenney's made those mistakes. Now, he's pissing his pants right now. He's had to reach out to Justin Trudeau through Crown Colonial Power, that crown, straight to Ottawa. Help, help, help. He goes on there, I made a huge mistake. We were wrong. Oh, geez. I'm facing some serious problems here. Now, in Canada, there's no crime in that. But on worldwide stages, there is. This data from Alberta is going to go out worldwide. I don't even have to do the work. Other NGOs will do it. And there are many countries that are going to be focusing on Alberta's data. You're going to see it. You're going to see NDP surge over it and use it. It's going to come out all through the next Alberta election with all kinds of money. They're going to pound on that. Jason's done in UCP. This was the nail in the coffin. It's reality. I look at the data. People are all, oh, you got to relax. You got to calm down. Wow. People dying when they shouldn't have died. The fuel in the tank for the other side is much more now. The justification for even harsher actions are justified. Justified. That's what happens when you don't have constitutions, when you don't have any rules of governance, how to govern, or accountability. None whatsoever. The only accountability will be the next election. And again, it's always the working class by a mass majority who's got to pay for all of it. All of it. Next week, I'll go through the economics. I will get rid of all radical anti-vaxxers because it's at the point now. Loss of life. Children's lives. People don't fathom the reality because this country never has. This country is the grossest in genocide and human rights violations. And I promise you, Maxime Bernier is a stupid politician. And he's going to lose the steam in the legs now. It's that bad. And the left has massive firepower now. And the majority is going to go with that. And while we're at it, minority groups, I can tell you, I've met families through diabetes, juvenile children's diabetes. Type 1, if you don't know what that is absolutely, it's a death sentence, automatic if you don't get your injections. I know a lot of you at least have heard of that in the United States. Even in Canada, it comes in at a bill of $345 to $400 and some dollars a month. The machines, the blood sugar testing, just the test strips are $1.20 now, $1.20 a piece, and you use 5 of those a day at times, could be even more if you get low readings or extremely high readings. And then you're paying if you've used up your prescription for the month. You got to be working full time. You've got to have outstanding benefits. Even my ex doesn't have the benefits to cover it. I'm I guess one of those lucky, fortunate fathers who has those benefits through his employer that does cover a majority of it. So I never feel that. As long as I maintain my hours of work, as long as I continue in that. Because a lot of employers don't, and there are a tremendous amount of families that I've met, all in Alberta, of course, because that's the program I went through. I remember a Grand Prairie family, a couple poor, had to transport them because the University of Alberta is their closest scenario for their child. Imagine finding a place to live, and there's organizations, NGOs, nonprofits that help. There's about 5 groups, but it doesn't cover all of it. So these families, poor guy, worked in landscaping. His wife, much younger than us, by the way, at the time, much younger. They were in their early 20s. You could just see the white, pale look on his face. The divorce rates for parents in that situation goes up dramatically, because of course money becomes a huge factor. You're basically sentenced to a car payment every month that is over and above whatever else you have in your life, no matter your economic situation. And sure, like I said, there's help groups, there's church groups, and you can do that, but that's not utilized by everyone. It's a very small minority group here. Tens of thousands of Albertan families, okay? Tens of thousands. Much smaller than PPC right now. A much smaller minority group. But when you start adding up all the list of all those things that could lead you to ICC situations, you add them all up, all of a sudden PPC becomes dwarfed. And this is where it don't matter. That was a conservative family from Grand Prairie those years ago. And every year we see more and more added to the roster through the University of Alberta. And I mean, Southern Alberta, I'm sure Calgary has a program there too. I don't know. I'm not involved in that. I just know from the University of Alberta. When you start adding up all these different groups, it becomes quite the majority versus a party like PPC and Maxime Bernier's narrative. And those people, regardless of extremely conservative values or not, when it comes to the children and it comes to international law, they will turn on you like a fly on you know what. And if people don't like what they're hearing, I promise you, if you ever went through it or ever met any peoples from that kind of scenario, and there's all kinds, it leads to a pretty good chunk of the population right across Canada. You get into cancer, which is massive and predominant. When people find out something's been prolonged and they have somebody who goes from a cancer scenario of stages, they should have been 1 and treated, but they end up in 4 because of COVID. And you can blame, well, they didn't fund healthcare, or they didn't do this, they didn't do that. And there are arguments for that. But the reality is, this is the numbers today. This is the people utilizing the system today, bleeding it down against all those other groups of people. You turn into an NDP or Liberal situation very fast, regardless of physical conservative. I get accused of all kinds of things, and I am basically an extreme physical conservative. Actually, most Canadians who work for a living are, because you have to be. Your families have to be, or you can't pay your bills, right? There is no borrowing when you don't have a home, or you've got to budget. You've got to balance the books month after month, and you have to raise a family. If you can't do that, or you're getting sidestepped because somebody else thinks their rights are above yours at your expense, at your tremendous expense, because they just don't know any better, or they want to read foreign stats and they don't care about the registered statistics of the actual country, of their fellow countrymen and women and children, and what those stats are recorded, absolutely recorded, every time they use their healthcare card in a hospital situation. It gets logged, recorded on the system, your vital statistics of whatever region you're in. Now, if people don't get that and they want to run to the US, they want to run to Hong Kong, they want to run to, you know what I mean? Sorry, you've lost me. Why are you reaching out across the world to third world nations or other nations that don't even govern in the same manner as you, and it has nothing to do with your fellow countrymen or women, really? I mean, there's good things to look at there. We do use world data in comparative analysis. Like I always talk about comparative law. And we have some serious comparative analysis from my home province, Alberta. Serious, that defies everything a crazy narrative is pushing, and they're still pushing it in the face of against their fellow countrymen and women. If you haven't woken up, it won't matter, because I'll be blocking and deleting people, and if they don't want to go with truth's only good as long as it presents their narrative, and they will expense any human right to protect their selfish interests at any expense. And they don't care because they don't work for a living. They don't know what it's like out there because they don't work for a living. So it means they don't contribute to the revenue of government at all. And they're not really taking a beating at all with what's going on in the country. And then they're going to poke you and talk, and they don't realize the mainstream is really starting to hate your guts now. The working Joe Janes are starting to go, wait a minute, it's at my expense, and you're talking about things as though you work for a living. If you work for a living, you'd know where we're at with vaccines right now, and you'd know what we're all going through. Now, I had a heads up on it's not really affecting me. I already gave up my rights months ago for politics, but I'm watching all around me as the working Joe Janes are being forced to vaccinate. And people running them down, Maxime Bernier. No, Maxime Bernier doesn't really work for a living, okay? He's a Privy Council former. He gets a wage. He gets a wage from his party. His own party don't even know. The real founding members of PPC were founded before he even opened up membership. All those who took membership in his party as it grows, and these donators and pay for your membership, are not founding members, do not own the party, and are not in there. And people don't know any of this stuff. Well, how could you? You'd have to have built a party and went through that system in a majority to understand that. Now, Maxime Bernier knew full well he was a Privy Council of Harper's, and he was in a party the CPC created and drafted. He knew all the legalities of it. There's a man who resigned from Libertarian Party, the former leader Tim Moen. If you ever get to know this man, if any of you remember when the Tim Moen, Maxime Bernier talk of merger, it was all about money. And Maxime Bernier wanted to know the intimate details of the Libertarian Party, very old party. My good friend Corey Morgan just went through the new leader of the Libertarian Party, gives you all a whole pile of stats about that. It's a great interview. I shared it. You should all watch that. But if you ever, any of you, get the chance to talk to Tim Moen about Maxime Bernier, you're going to find a hard truth where a good man named Tim Moen, a real liberty and freedom fighter, he'll tell you personally, right to your face, as a former leader of a federally registered political party who even went through an election, who had access, as Maxime Bernier does, to all kinds of verifiable facts. When you talk about electronic voting, which we don't have, Maxime Bernier knows damn well. He's known for 2 solid elections, running with a majority cast. As me, I know what it is as a leader of a party to run a majority cast, and what you were granted access to under the Crown colonial powers, what only you and any other majority federal leader or provincial leader will learn in any election. You get it all access. Maxime Bernier's had it twice in a row. So why does he allow the propagation of so much PPC lying? Well, that's easy. He's a former Crown Colonial Privy Council member and enjoys lying his face off to all of you and all his party. All he cares about is what? The wallet. The wallet. And so many bamboozled. A sick, dirty son of a bitch. That's the reality. No different than any of the other Canadian politicians making money off of your expensed misery, suffering, and everything else in total fabricated narrative. Sick, gross, perverted. And you're all going to see what's going to happen to Jason Kenney, and you can all go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you dirty rot. You're going to watch. Mark my words. And I take it off the chin, because I don't care about friends and following. I care about truth going forward, getting to the bread and butter of it. And I look forward to doing my last 3 provinces, and I could care less about these radicals in wrong narratives, fault or no fault. What you've been led to believe is true. I'm sorry, but I can't carry your crap anymore. I can't. And not at the expense of children, which this is really getting into. I'm going to be looking at the stats clearly and deeply all the way up to Christmas. And we're going to have Alberta's truth and answers. And mark my words, if there's children on that list, don't you worry about it. Liberals and NDP are going to exploit the living hell out of that. Exploit the living hell out of it. And that's going to be the end of Jason Kenney. He will never be Prime Minister as he wishes to be in his federalist, sick, narcissistic belief at the expense of his job as Premier of Alberta. He's going to find out the hard way. And who did all this? Well, that's some radical conservatives, and even Jason Kenney himself, leader of all of it. He went his road. Doug Ford was expensed quite a bit, but at the end of the day, who's the best conservative premier in Canada now today when you look at Alberta? Well, it would be Doug Ford. Hate to say it. He was wiser than a lot of us, including myself. Wiser. But that's just luck, maybe, or maybe the right kind of political insiders. But he chose well, because now he's bailing out Jason Kenney. He's shining like a silver dollar. And Jason Kenney is a bad penny. And all those PPCers, and it's going to be coming out. And you can say, oh, it's Project the U.S. and all. Whoa, this is your data of your countrymen, logged, not smudged, not fudged. And if you're going to say that, you couldn't run a country or a province if your life depended on it. If you say, oh, screw all the data. Well, screw all the data. What kind of shit show are you planning to run here? Screw all the data? Screw consensus? Screw all of what is achieved in the first world? Because I promise you don't have a first world country if you don't follow your statistics. You don't. You can't plan for any future. You can't run any economy. And anyone telling you they could is a bull-faced liar. Bull-faced liar. Do you think businesses run on that kind of, oh, well, who cares about that? Who cares about profit margins? Who cares about employee, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? We don't look at any of that. How long when you don't run with an accountant who keeps the statistical analysis? And there's ones who cheat. We hear about that in the news all the time, too. There's a criminal code developed to deal with that. But think about it. What kind of business would you run if you never looked at the numbers and didn't give a shit, or said it's all fabricated anyway, who cares? How long are you going to be in business? Because your competitors are going to do it. Wake up, people. Enough with the horse shit. If you don't come with the real numbers, the real data, I don't want to hear you anymore. I don't want you on my Facebook. I've been clear about that. And I don't care. I'll drop down, but you'll watch. Like I always go in waves. The cream always rises to the top. When you stay the course, you rise to the top. This is going to be a house cleaning. Sweeping out the closet, getting rid of the riffraff. That's what I'm doing. Because the data's in. The data doesn't support any of this bullshit from a whole pile. And PPC going to be going down the toilet. You see, the real Freedom Party Libertarian sat back on this. Took a step back. Looked at it logically, and it's a very old party. It's American. The real Liberty Party. PPC is garbage. Crown colonial garbage. A crazy narrative from a crazy group. Sorry. No data. All faked. All phony bullshit. Sure, we can run for rights. We can say, oh, rights, rights. Rights. And I did this a very long time ago. I did it in the Alberta narrative to get rid of that. Is you can have your rights and freedoms at no threat, harm, or expense to anyone else's. And when that starts coming up, depending on the gravity, and you throw that aside for a majority or a wanton majority, and you're wrong, dead wrong, and you cause damage to another group of people, whether that's you threatened it or you harmed it or you actually result in the deaths of people, your fellow citizens, you're toast. You're toast. And we have a whole history right here in Canada that shows how many times that's happened, and people never learn their lesson. How could they? We're a crown colonial, and yes, that is the fault of your government and this system. And why? Absolutely why? Constitutionalism, regionally and absolutely federal dismemberment and redesign has to occur. Because you can't just let people run on a whim. Businesses don't run on a whim. They may start out that way, but their success rate, time and time again, shows they're going to go tits up bankrupt and somebody else has to pay for it. Some poor average Joe Jane third-class citizen is taking the brunt of that. The public debt. And Canada's way out of control. Way out of control. The province of Alberta is way out of control. There's nothing conservative about that. There's nothing even normal about it with NDP. It's been in a decline like this, and it's going so sharp, that province is just about belly up. Very close to being belly up. Carried by, what, the Liberals now? And the rest of Canada? A province that shouldn't have these issues. There is a federal narrative, of course, from the Crown Colonials that helped bleed that out. But there are many, many other decisions done by the province's leaders themselves to drive the major nails in, like, I'm going to help nail the coffin shut on my people in Alberta. Jason Kenney has hammered in the most nails out of any of them. I thought Rachel Notley couldn't possibly be topped. Oh, but he did. He did. He shot way past it. He was cutting the boards as fast as could be, hammering the nails almost like it's on purpose. Like his love for Ottawa trumped all other things. Incompetence, sure, but there's a lot more than just that. It's sick, it's gross. It's the world data from Alberta from July onward, and in this situation it finds itself now, is going to be exploited worldwide. That ain't going anywhere. This is a massive, massive blow. Massive blow to narratives all over the place. And there are going to be many governments and many NGOs looking at this stuff. I'm looking at it going, wow. Wow. That's my video. You should share it. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. Good or bad, the truth should always go out. Thank you. That's my video. Bye now.